Hey, what's going on out there? I'm Sean Devine. Good to be with y'all. Got a few people coming into the chat. I'm going to give it just a minute and we'll get started here. Excited to be back with ADSR. What's up, Rod? What's up, Jamie? What's up? Sorry, I might mess up some of your names. Rays, what's going on? Yeah, so can y'all hear me okay? Where's everybody from? That's my favorite question. All over the world, right? Yo. Yeah, so if you guys aren't familiar, this is the Get a Better Mix series. It's where we accept your submissions and we provide feedback, critique. We're going to do an in-depth mixing session today, actually, where we're going to focus on balancing, bringing things up, and getting levels right. But if you did not have a chance to submit, or if your track was not selected today, there are more ops for this to happen. So check out the ADSR Discord. But yeah, it's going to be fun. Even if your track wasn't chosen, stick around with us. Oh, we got Norway in the house? Okay. Much love to Norway. Yeah, I'm excited to jump into it. We've got a really cool track as well. I've had a lot of fun just listening to it, loading it up into the session. But anyways, y'all, let's go ahead and dive in. If you're not familiar with me, I'm Sean Devine. I am a mixing and mastering engineer, producer, sound designer, wear a lot of different hats in the studio. But today with ADSR, and we are in the Get a Better Mix series, and we're going to dive in and we're going to focus on essential balancing today. I know that we tend to get a little carried away into using a lot of plugins in the mixing process and, you know, what's the magic sauce that's going on the stereo bus. We're going to cover some of that today, but I'm going to actually be leveling and balancing a track from scratch just so that we can make sure that we're getting that right. Because if that's not right, the rest of this stuff just isn't going to work. So let's go ahead and take a listen here. If you have any questions while we're going throughout the process, I have the chat up here. Feel free to. If you have general mixing questions as well, I'm going to be, just kind of bouncing back and forth with you guys. Would love to hear your feedback and continue to interact with you all throughout the process. All right, so we're going to play it back. Also, I'm relatively new to streaming, so if I forget to switch the camera or something like that, if y'all can give me a heads up, I would greatly appreciate it. This track is Brain Spackle, and it is called Childish Behavior. I wonder, is that a different stage name? I'm curious. Let's take a listen. This is not, balanced or anything. I've just kind of got everything at unity gain, and then we're going to dive in and bring everything to 0 and dive in here. So. All right, so I think that gives you all a good idea of what we're working with here. First thing I want to do is just go ahead and bring everything to 0 because, again, we are going to mix this thing from scratch. Now, you probably noticed that some of these were sent to me as stems, and they do have some effects on it. That's perfectly fine because, again, we're focused on this essential balancing today. But I do want to do a little bit of just organizational prep type stuff in the form of VCAs and track stacks. If you guys aren't familiar, just makes it a lot easier to do stems at the end of a mix. And also, given that we're trying to mix this in less than an hour, if we have to make some quick adjustments, say on the drums or the vocals or whatever at the end, it'll make it a lot easier to do. So I'm just going to go ahead and we're going to select all the drum tracks here. Let's see what all we've got. Drum fill, snare transition. And let's create a track stack. What's up, Crick? I see you in the chat. Hope you're doing well, man. All right, so we'll name that drums and bass. We got these two different bass lines here. I'm going to leave those. Got a Japanese beetle effects. I don't know if you guys and girls and everyone else heard that, but that was pretty cool. It's almost got this rhythmic thing. So I'm going to probably put that down here with some effects. Yeah, let's put that at the bottom. We'll group the vocals so that we can control that. How many of you all create VCAs for stems out of curiosity? If you're not, I would advise trying it because it's very helpful. It's also going to do something really useful for us at the end when we want to create headroom, because I'm actually going to be mixing into a limiter, which I'm going to show you in just a second. Don't get too nervous about that. It's going to be fine. So let's go ahead and do this one. This will be melody. All right. So about got this where we need it. And just do an effect one real quick. How's everybody doing in the chat? Yeah, so if you didn't get a track in and you want a chance to be able to participate in the future, there is opportunities on the ADSR Discord. So they'll have a link to that if you guys want to check it out. Now, we got everything to 0. Now, I am going to go to the stereo bus, and I'm going to go ahead and just park a limiter. I know a lot of you might be like, why in the world would you mix into a limiter? There's a lot of reasons, but the main one is that, you know, a lot of you are trying to create a ton of headroom in your mix for the mastering process, but at some point, the mastering engineer is going to bring that up. He's got to bring it up the same way. They've got to bring it up the same way with the limiter. So you want to go ahead and just hear what that's going to sound like when they do that processing. So I'm not going to do anything crazy here except just park it at like -1, maybe a little less than that just for the video. And we'll do low latency just so I can leave that. And I think that'll be good for now. So we'll go ahead and start with some drums. I start with my drums. I think most people tend to prefer to do it that way, but it doesn't really matter. But I like to start with drums. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and just bring up the kick. And I'm mixing with my my console or the controller over here. Some of you might be mixing with a mouse. That's perfectly fine. This is just a little quicker. So I'm going to go find a spot here for us. Let's just say maybe in here where a lot of the elements are. Oops. Yeah, let's try over here. Thank you. There's a heavy bass line in here too. So I want to get the kick and the bass right on this, especially for this type of track. So let me go over to my bass. We got to get that right. So yeah, I'm just totally going off a feel right now. Again, a lot of you have had questions about specific numerical values for instruments and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, with essential balancing, you got to just do what feels right. And obviously the vocal, we're going to put more of a priority on. But yeah, it's really about feel. Any questions specifically, thank you for letting me know about the screen. Like I was telling you, flicking back between this and streaming. It's a new adventure. But let's see, we've got a few more elements that need to come up. And I try to just bring things up to a point where I can hear it. And then, you know, once we've kind of got it there, then we can start to fine tune things. Let's go over here to this other drum loop, second part of the track. Yeah, and right now in this initial balancing, not focused on getting anything perfect. So it's okay if something's a little too loud right now, that's perfectly fine. We're just trying to get everything up, see what we're dealing with, and see kind of a generally speaking, where this stuff is going to all fit in the mix. Japanese beetle. Where are we going to put this? Let's see. That's a really cool sound, by the way, Brain Spackle. All right, where are those fills at? I want to go ahead and take care of some of these drum fills. couple more tracks and then we're going to get to the vocal. That'll be fun. Let's see. Piano glitch. What do we have here? How's it sounding to you all so far? I'm on headphones. I mix in headphones some, but there's nothing wrong with mixing in headphones, by the way. Anybody that tells you can't mix in headphones, welcome to 2021. That's feeling pretty good to me so far. I'm missing the snare transition. Let's get that in here. One thing I will say is this kick is quite heavy. I may do a little bit of processing just to kind of make it match the other kick a little bit. Again, I know we're focused on balancing today, but that thing is just sticking out quite heavily. So let's just see what we've got going on there. I'm going to solo it. Yeah, that is a chunky kick, which is fine. You know, nothing wrong with that, but excuse me. You know, definitely I'm going to tame it a little bit. And it doesn't matter, you know, if you prefer a multi-band compressor or a dynamic EQ. I use dynamic EQs quite often, so whatever you prefer. Yeah, there's just a bunch of crunch up here. Let's see if that's sitting a little better. All right, who's ready for the vocals? Before we dive in, that sounds pretty good to me. Again, we're not going for perfection with this balance, but you know, we want to get everything fitting in the pocket. You got to find a space for everything. A lot of people would say, you know, carve out everything with EQ and, you know, do all these different compression, you know, things on various instruments and all that. But until we get to you know, before we get to any of that, we got to get this balance going, and it's got to work right. So does it feel good to you is the question. And can you hear everything? You brought everything up to that point. It's pretty simple, but we're gonna tweak things and get everything really polished here in a minute. But any questions with what we've done thus far? Switching the camera over here, making sure y'all are still with me. What's up, Russ? Seth can't wait to start recording again in Logic. Nice. Let's Music Your Life said the bass is too dominant. Never enough bass, right? No, we'll tweak it a little bit for sure. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I have a pair of the Allo Audio S4, I believe, and they're good. I like them. We are just going to focus on this track today. Again, if you didn't get your track selected today, don't worry. We're going to be doing more of these. So, yeah, I like the bass line too. I like both of them. This track's got a really nice groove to it, and I'm having fun already. Yeah, absolutely. It's good to be back with y'all. We're having fun. So, vocals. Are we ready? Switching back to the screen cap. Let's see here. Now, these vocals, again, like I said, some of these stems already had effects on them. I think these are one of them, but that's okay. We still got to figure out how it's going to sit. And we may do a little bit more processing on it, just depending on what we've got. Let's take a listen here. And I'm going to solo it for a second, because again, I want to hear what's been done. I want to hear what the tone is of the vocal and get a better idea. I'm just a man on his way to the moon, wishing the rocket would go faster. All the stars remind me of you, yeah they do. I'm on my way to you. So already a lot of compression there, so I don't know if we'll be having to do a ton. But let's see where we're going to sit in the mix. He drops out I'm not sure about genders here, who made this track, but if I say he, just assume I mean anybody here. I have no idea who Brain Speckle is. I'm just a man on his way to the moon, wishing the rocket would go faster. All the stars remind me of you, yeah they do. I'm on my way to you. I'm on my way to you. I'm just a man on his way to the moon, but I'm on my way to you. I think coming out of that break, with the vocals being so prominent, that piano's got to be kicking. So I'll probably bring that in louder. We actually might do a little automation on that. We'll probably wait and do that till the end, but let me just... What do y'all think? Maybe just bring it... Bring it up. I'll sit it there for now, but let's see how those transition here. I'm just a man on his way to the moon, wishing the rocket would go faster. All the stars remind me of you, yeah they do. I'm on my way to you. I'm on my way to you. I'm on my way to you. I'm just a man on his way to the moon, but I'm on my way to you. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and automate that. We'll try. We'll see how this goes here. Let's see. I want to just try to bring that piano in slowly. How many of you mix and use automation pretty extensively? Or do some of you just automate your like fade outs? What's the What's the intensity of your automating in your mixing process? Automation is very, very powerful. Creating dynamics, it's huge. So let's go over here and I'm going to switch this into latch. Go over here to my fader. This is why I like having a control surface, because riding this stuff is a lot easier on a controller. I'm just a man on his way to the moon, but I'm on my way to you. I need a little more time than that. I'm just a man on his way to the moon, but I'm on my way That feels a lot better to me. Not a tremendous increase there, but you know. Yeah, it's, you know, I think the temptation a lot of times is just to compress things super heavily and, you know, get lazy and not automate. But the whole point of the mix is we got to guide the listener through this thing. So automation helps us to do that in a much more dynamic way. That's awesome. Let music your life. They made an entire thesis about synth bass. So you can really tell that I love it too. I would like to read that. Please put that in the Discord. We would all like to check that out. What's going on with this road here in this part? Okay, so he's got some side chaining in the background. Okay, last vocal line here. This is just kind of a delay effect. It's not really a lead, but let me see what we've got. Let's bring it up. Yeah, it sounds like it was just something to create an effect there, which is cool. I'm probably going to put it a little further back and let that instrumentation ride. And also, I need to bring that piano back down here because it does sound loud once we get into that part. Where we're at, like 8/7. So I'll just bring that back down so it's not so dominant. Okay, I might dive into some effects on that lead delay, do something kind of creative just to give it a little bit more pumping. It sounds like it's sidechained, but I may do more just to make it more rhythmic because I can hear the delay line, but I don't know, it just needs a little more movement and bounce to me. Oh, you know what? We forgot a white noise effect. Now, where is that at? Very important. Got to get our white noise in here. That pad comes down quite a bit too. I'm gonna bring that up. So I like that. See, this is mixing though, y'all. I mean, I think that it can be easy to sort of think that this is some really pretty fast process, and you got a bunch of cheat codes for where the levels are going to go, and you just set it and forget it. But it's really a lot of just sitting with it and living with the song, hearing it over and over again, and you get a better feel for what's working. I already feel like I know this song tremendously in terms of the arrangement, or at least tremendously more than I did before, not being familiar with it. The more you listen to it, the more you start to hear what's working and what's not, and you make adjustments. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, automation is definitely something that's overlooked. I overlooked it a lot when I was starting out and mixing. Yes, I know everybody wants the secret sauce plugin that's just going to mix your song for you, but no substitute for these, and your intuition and your taste. That's what it's all about. How do you get to the point where your gut feeling about the mix is right? I think that relates directly to taste. So what do I mean by taste? I just mean as you listen to tons and tons of music, I'm sure you all are music lovers as well. You got to be if you're sitting here, right? But the more you listen to stuff, you just kind of get a feel for where things are sitting, and then it just starts to make more sense. And I just can kind of hear like, okay, this feels right at this point. It's really just a feeling, an intuition about it. I wish I had a more specific answer, but I think with time you get more comfortable with like, okay, this is where it needs to be. Now let's move on. Like we just did earlier in the track. It's like, okay, I've got it to a point where the essential balance feels good enough. Now let's start doing some automation and things. And, you just keep it rolling. Speaking of, let's keep it rolling here. What do we got? I think we got everything balanced here. I want to go to that vocal delay and just do something a little different. I just think that needs to be more in the background. And that's a good example is right here. I'm listening to this. And I'm like, something needs to be a little different about it. And, just being honest from a music listening perspective, that's probably the most difficult thing as an engineer, because we have a tendency to get really technical. And this is for any engineer or producer for that matter. You want to get kind of technical and break things down in a way that's strictly from that perspective. But you've got to be listening from a listening perspective as far as like what's not sounding good to me just in that. If I was hearing this, if it just came on the radio, is it working? Is it not working? So. I'm just going to sidechain this with the kick again. It sounds kind of like they sidechained it a little bit, but I'm going to do a little more. See, that sounds better to me. With the kick sidechain a little bit, gives us more of a groove. And I may add more delay to it. It just needs, y'all want sauce? Let's add some sauce to this. Why not? Let me solo that. Yeah, so that last part kind of gets lost there. So I'm going to ride that as well with some automation. Let's go back over here. Bring this up just a little bit. Hey, what's that ending? We might have to do something about that. The stems got cut a little short. Yeah, we'll deal with that in a minute. Let's hear how everything else is doing. Yeah, that's another small thing that, you know, you might not think about, but when you're sending your tracks off, make sure that you don't cut them really, really close at the beginning and the end, because you know, you run into issues like this. Sometimes you'll get it where it'll just have this slight little pop or clip at the beginning because you just cut everything a little too close, especially when you get into mastering, limiting. So just leave a little bit of space. Hey, shout out to Herman, Germany. Oh, nice. Yeah, so Vico, there's some different options with automation. You know, you got touch, latch, right? So touch is just gonna, wherever it's sitting, you know, whenever I touch the fader, if I let go, it'll just return to the value. Latch, as soon as you move it to a certain point, it'll stay there. It's the easiest way to think about it, to remember it. But yeah, depending on how you want to automate it, that can decide that for you. All right, so now I'm going to take a listen from the beginning and let's just hear if anything stands out here. Oh, wait a second. Yeah, they gotta automate this. Right? Don't y'all love a pad fade in? Come on. We all love a pad fade in. If you don't, let me know. All right, let's see. Do a latch. Just a good example. We're going to use latch. And I'm going to go over here. Get it to come up. There it is. So we were at like 6, I think. 6.5. Oops. Well. Sorry, I created one a little early. There we go. What happened to my pad? We might just do it the easy way. Yeah, my automation went off there, so I'm going to just draw a little fade in here for us. You guys get the point. See, this is something that I would spend a lot of time on, is this balance between this synth lead and this orchestral string, because these are both really cool instruments. They're playing the same thing, but this is the decision. This is the taste decision where it's like, okay, you know, what do you want it to sound like? And you may get guidance from your client that's very specific with stuff like this, but you may not, and that's what they're trusting you to do. So I'm going to solo these real quick and just take a listen. That balance feels good, but we got to bring those strings up right here. That one got a little carried away. It's a good example. Yeah, I got to pause this for a second. Did I just see this is... Wait. Hold on a second. I just saw something that this was this artist's second mix, or second song, excuse me. Is that right? I would be very curious. Yeah, we'll definitely have to confirm that in Discord. This is a cool track. If this is your second song, I'm impressed. Very impressed. Yeah, I was just about to mention the clap Svengali. I think you're right. I didn't particularly love this. The only problem is it came as a loop. So if we solo it, like I've got all that stuff together. But this is a good example, y'all. I mean, I think that a lot of people expect to just have everything ideal, everything's, you know, perfectly tracked out. Sometimes you're going to get stuff like this and you may go back to the artist and they say, no, I mean, that's how I got it. It was just a loop. That's what I've got. So, you know, do what you got to do with it. So in this case, I mean, it's pretty harsh. I would have mixed the clap differently. Yeah, I would have probably adjusted the reverb, but that's all beside the point. We'll do what we got to do here. But what we can do is, you know, maybe like some dynamic EQ just to control it a little bit. Let's see here. I'm going to go in, maybe do Pro Q3 and just try to dial in something specific for it. The clap just sounds too loud to me and I can't change the volume of it. So, excuse me, we'll try to just control those frequencies in that clap. And then a lot of high end, you can see some spikes at like 20K, some of that. So we'll try and roll some of that off as well. Just kind of had that dog whistle sort of effect to it. So drum replacement, yeah, that would work. It'd be a little bit tougher here with this as a loop since we've got all those other drum elements in here. And the other thing is with drum replacement, you know, some artists are more open to that than others, especially if you're getting tracks from a producer. I've just found that's something that I'll usually ask about first just to see if they're cool with it, because I have done that before and they're like, why'd you change the drums? And I try to tell them, well, you know, the kick you sent me was badly distorting and just wasn't working well, and it wasn't blending with the 808 or whatever it may be. And they may say, no, let's just stick with it. So it's a good thing to check with your client before you start replacing drums. But I do that often, and that's a good thought, Russell. Yeah, so let's see if this helps in the context of the mix. I think we tamed that pretty well. That transition right there, I don't know if maybe I'm missing something, but it just seems a little anticlimactic going into the lead vocal. I'm just a man on his way to... So what I would probably do is just send everything through maybe an EQ and just do like a filter sweep of some kind. Let's see, how much time do we have? Okay, we got a little bit of time, so we'll try and do that real quick. I would normally do this on a bus, but for the sake of time, I'm going to do it on the stereo bus. So we'll see what we can do. I'm just a something like that, right? Let's just see if that'll work. Okay. Let's see. I'm just a man on his way to the moon, wishing the rocket would go faster. I'm just a man. Something like that. I need a crash or like a downlift or impact or something. Be cool if they had that in there, but just to make that a little smoother. On his way to the moon, wishing the rocket would go faster. All the stars remind me of you, yeah they do. I'm on my way to you. I'm on my way to you. I'm on my way to you. I'm just a man on his way to the moon, but I'm on my way to you. Okay, so feels pretty good. Again, not perfection here. We got limited time, but one other thing that I would do in my mix is I'll usually mix into, you know, some kind of bus compressor, but at this point I may just add it just for a little bit of tone. So let me go ahead and just open that up. Let's see here if we can dial a little something in. I've actually got a preset that I like to use a lot, and it's just a, you know, very low ratio. So when I turn it on, it'll just give us a little bit of a volume lift. And I'm going to show you all who are concerned about headroom and, pushing your mix too much. Once we've done this and we've gotten an idea of what this is going to sound like, with some bus compression and all that stuff, we can actually dial this back with our VCAs, give the mastering engineer some headroom. It's all good. So don't worry too much about it right now. But let's go ahead and I'll let you hear it with and without this bus comp. Yeah, when you have limited time, crank that limiter. I hear you, and I think it's about that time. Y'all ready? So let's get this thing up to commercial levels just so we can hear. And again, I started with this, y'all, about why we're mixing into a master limiter. And the reason is because this is going to happen at some point anyway. So you want to know what's going to happen. I can't tell you how many times you might send off your mix with a ton of headroom and you're leaving a lot of guesswork because you might get it back and find out that having that limiter introduced, it changes the sound of your drums in a way that you weren't exactly impressed with. Your snare might be popping out too much. Maybe your kick, the bass died in it. So it's just good to get an idea of, what this is going to do. So let's go ahead and switch over IRC transient and let's pull it down a little bit. It's going to get a little bit louder. Just a warning. Yeah, I'm just having fun now. Sounds pretty good to me. But the point being, you may put that limiter on and some things, did jump out at me. I might turn those vocals down like a dB. Maybe something else comes up in a way that I wasn't quite expecting. So yeah, we got a few people in the chat that were saying that they mix into limiters too to have an early approximation of how the end result will be. Exactly. Yes. Svengali was saying that you lose some of the piano transient, still sounds good. Yeah, so all those things are going to change a little bit. And it's good to give yourself less guesswork. How many of you have sent your mixes off to mastering engineers and been incredibly disappointed? Yeah, it happens. So you might as well check it out, Check it out on that limiter. Yeah, so I think we are approaching the end of the stream here. So does anybody have any questions about what we covered? We did just mostly essential balancing. We got some multi-band compression, controlling the kick here. Did a few different effects, but I didn't want to make this too much about any of that beyond that balancing and that leveling, because if we don't have that right, the rest of the process is just not going to come together the way you want it to. Doesn't matter how many crazy plugins you smack on this stuff, you've got to be able to get that core balance and that essential balance right. So something that, I think is maybe not as glamorous these days. People don't talk about it as much, but, if you're not getting on these faders and really having fun with it, you're not mixing, right? We got to be actually pulling some stuff up and mixing off a feel. So, yeah, that was fun though. I really love that track. And if that was your second song, again, color me very impressed. Tips on vocal production. We might just have to do a whole stream on that one. That's a deep one, Austin. But for me these days, I think we're going into kind of a shift where vocals aren't being mixed as thin, meaning leaving more mids, definitely not as intense of a low cut. Like we're not cutting, too much below like 100 these days or 120. Some tracks maybe, but I'm just finding that a more warm, rounded vocal is becoming a bit more acceptable, which I'm all for it. I like a bigger, thicker sounding vocal rather than something that's just really thin and kind of brittle. How do you know if the level of a kick is right if you don't have years of experience? That's a great question. And, I always say to mix the kick first. And there is no specific level that's going to be right for every kick and every track. And I think that's a common question. But unfortunately, every song is different. And the relationship of the kick and the bass is going to be different. But one thing you can do is once you kind of get that kick up, if you're mixing around it, you can, take a look at the LUFS, like the momentary or an RMS reading, and get an idea for what works. I have a couple of RMS in my mind, when I'm looking at a kick that's like, okay, that usually feels pretty good, or it's at least a starting point, and then you can build around it from there. So there's just not an exact, point to put this stuff. There's no, sheet of like, mix the snare to, minus 18 LUF, whatever. There's no way to do that for every song because that's the whole point, stuff's all different. But yeah, anyways, y'all, this has been a lot of fun. Always enjoy it. Again, if you want to get your song in for a future stream, make sure and visit the ADSR Discord channel. I am also on YouTube as well, youtube.com/Sean Devine. Follow me on Instagram. My IG is @Sean Devine, spelled exactly how it is on the video. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to doing more of these with y'all. I want to thank everyone that submitted and for joining us. Big shout out to everyone at ADSR for making this happen. Head over to their channel, hit subscribe, all that good stuff. Much love to y'all. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.